everyone? Where is your? I know, Kira, you're roughly Brentwood, aren't you?
Yep, that's right. Shenfield, right near.
Right.
Brentwood.
Okay.
I'm in Camden Town, near Camden Town.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
in
a
a
nice
place called
setup for
Hackbridge.
you.
It's about 2 miles outside of Croydon.
Croydon.
We're down in South London, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Where are you based?
I'm Whittam, just past Chelmsford in Essex.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right. Are you?
Yay!
So
Welcome, everybody. Number 4 podcast. Today
Hi.
we have Pete Riley.
Hello.
So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Pete was my teacher at ACM.
Oh, it's his fault.
Excuse
Right
me.
then.
But for those who don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, because this is just what I've Googled.
Oh, okay.
You played with Guthrie. Is it Govan? Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I played with Guthrie for quite a while. Yeah.
Yep. I remember seeing you guys actually, I think somewhere in Guildford, maybe. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, right.
It was
Oh,
a
yeah,
little band you had.
Yeah. We played together with what we called the Fellowship. We had a residency just down the road in Chelmsford for about 12 years, every Thursday. Yeah. And it's funny, we'd have some nights where it would be packed, and then other nights, I guess because you're doing it every week, you'd have like 6 people in there. And now when we do it occasionally, we haven't done one for a little while, but they're queuing down the road because Guthrie is such a huge name now. So it's just ironic that a few years ago there would be, as many people in the audience as in the band. So, but yeah, Guthrie.
Love it. You played with Republica, Billy Sheehan, Paul Gilbert, Keith Emerson. Is that all correct?
Yeah, that's those. I mean, some more brief than others. The Billy Sheehan was just the music show thing with Guthrie, and Paul Gilbert. I did a gig in Bath at one of the guitar festivals. But Keith, I toured with quite a bit over about a 3-year period. That was a great gig. Yeah, great drum gig, because he just sort of let you do what you want, really. Long drum solo and stuff, which gradually developed over the years. But yeah, that was fun.
That's the dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, really challenging music. Fans that love Keith or loved Keith and the music, and you've pretty much got free reign. And so it was one of my favorite drum gigs. Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, I don't really know what age you were when you started drumming, or what did you always want to play drums, or how did that come about?
No, I was 15 when I got my first kit, and but I played, I guess, a reasonably musical background running up to that, because I played trumpet initially from maybe age 10, and then went to cornet when I joined the brass band. My sister's a piano teacher, and my dad played guitar, and so there was always music, and I really wish I'd learned piano. There was always one in the house, and my sister was, as I say, she's a piano teacher now. But then some friends who I hung out with, we used to fly aeroplanes, but also one of the guys played a bit of rock guitar, and that was how I got into rock music originally, into all the music that he was listening to, your Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and things. But he played a bit of guitar, and that was when I realized how boring the cornet seemed in comparison. And so I made the switch, age 15, got a drum kit for Christmas, and so fortunately it also meant that I could read music to a degree at the point where I started, because I'd done my music theory up to grade 5 or something, and so I could read, although I was almost self-taught for about the first 5 years or so.
Cool. I read that Simon Phillips is one of your influences. And did you meet him?
Yeah. I met Simon a couple of times, and he was very gracious both times. And the first time I was probably about 22, playing the Northern Music Show in Manchester with Jan Serker, and he was playing, doing a drum solo performance on one of the days. And I just hung out with him in the bar one evening, and he was in no hurry to speak to anyone else. And we just sat and chatted for about an hour. And he's, a couple of occasions where he's done that. And just great to sit and take the time to talk to a younger drummer and just share some of the, anecdotes and experiences. Yeah, really good. But I just love his playing. I love his philosophy. As much of, in terms of his approach to the kit, the open-handed approach to the kit, but also the sound of the kit. I love that. The open tuning, high tuning, and everything resonating. I love that.
Have you ever done the paint cans in the bass drum trick?
I haven't tried that actually. I'm sitting looking at one of them now. I've got the two 24 by 14-inch bass drums with the full front head, well, just a hole for the cable to come out. I've never tried it. I mean, because to be honest, here in this room, that they sound like cannons already. And to be honest, I was just doing a bit of practice on the bigger kit, and everything seems so loud at the minute outside because of lockdown. I'm quite near the A12, and I'm fortunate in that my studio is really soundproof, but there's still that, when it gets to the evening in normal, when things are normal, you can just discern a bit of drum kit. So I don't generally play after about 8, but just playing on the big kit now, I'm really wary that you can probably hear a drum kit. So I switched onto my little 20, and I'm practicing some of my lighter stuff at the moment. But short answer, no, not tried the paint cans. I think, given that we've all got so much time at the moment, maybe it's something on one of my one of the quieter days that is no doubt going to be coming. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, do. And we'll come back for a report.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll do an A/B and record it. No doubt Simon did that as well. I recall one of his stories was when he discovered the rims mounts. Obviously, the Tama kits had them built in on the Star Classic, but he actually got a stopwatch and was timing the resonance from the drums, switching from a normal. So no doubt he did the A/B with the paint can as well. Yeah.
Just for context, if anybody's watching who doesn't know, Simon Phillips puts like large paint cans in his bass drums. It's to affect the sound, isn't it? Is that right? Is that what it's for?
I think it does something to the waveform, the low frequencies, and the way they move around the drum, because obviously the mic's inside the drum as well. So, and I think it enhances the low end or tightens things up. I'll report back once I give it a shot.
Committed now. So, go on.
Go on.
Okay, I had quite a specific question actually. In my practicing diary at the top, I have a little phrase that says Pete Riley, not Virgil. So your playing's really relaxed, and like I try and, I'm a big fan of Virgil, but I try to kind of more emulate what you're doing, so it's relaxed and you make it look really easy. So 2 questions. Is there anyone that you try and channel or think of to get into that mindset when you're playing? And secondly, how did you, who was the sort of biggest influence on your kind of physical approach to the drums, I suppose?
Yeah, I think, well, thanks for spotting the relaxed sort of approach. I think I mean, it's not really a conscious thing. It's not contrived when I'm playing, but it certainly was something that back when I was doing my study, for example, with Bob Armstrong, that I'd made the transition from match grip to traditional grip. And that's when I really sort of discovered technique really, and started to sort of focus on that and the motions and things like that. And then I started looking at players, I guess, like Vinny and Steve Smith, and later on perhaps Tony Williams, and just the way they approached playing and the movements and how it all sort of joins together. you know, the idea that the stroke doesn't just sort of end at the bottom. There's all the stuff that in preparing the stroke that was a big part of it. And also I just never really liked that playing into the kit approach, you know, just bashing the drum kit. I just like that idea of coaxing the sound out of it. And so I guess it's those two things that come together. But yeah, it wasn't something that just arrived. It was something, lots of time on the pad with the mirror and you know, full strokes, feeling the sticks rebound and that kind of thing. And you know, been doing some practice this morning, so it's on the pad and on the kit, and it's yeah, it's a work in progress still.
Cool.
So
Felipe, you fetched a book. That looks ominous.
Oh, we can't hear you.
I can't hear you. Your sound's gone.
Who, me?
No,
Felipe.
Felipe.
Oh.
That's all right. Do you want to ask a question while he's sorting his sound
Yeah, I was going to be really nosy and just ask you exactly what you're practicing right now. I'm really curious to know, you know, it's funny, isn't it? Because you're saying, oh, you know, it's a work in progress. But to me, it's just like, wow, every time I see you play, it's just like effortless. So what kind of things are you
practicing? I'm currently, the stuff I'm doing on the pad, there's some specific exercises that I've been doing. Like there's a page of syncopated notation that I've been practicing, some roughs, traditional grip, just general fluidity between the hands. It's something I hadn't done. I've been doing the last 2 or 3 years, and that's helped with that. Another thing that I've been doing more recently with the traditional grip is trying to get it's my right, because I'm left-handed, more open, so it gets a bigger stroke. Something I've noticed from players like Todd Sucherman and Tommy Igoe is that they allow the stick to go back further. So I've been pursuing that a bit more. I guess part of the goal of that is just to get things a little bigger with traditional grip, because a lot of the playing I've done recently, the rock stuff, I just go into match grip, which is nothing against match grip, but I think I can get a little more out of the traditional grip. But also that leads on to the other stuff I've been practicing, which is going back to match grip. I've been pursuing the open-handed thing again when I switch round that way. I don't know where it's all going, but so I've got the two on the smaller kit. It's basically just 2 ride cymbals, and so just practicing some stuff this way, and just I've reached a point where I'm trying to make that transition between the 2 grips an unconscious one, so I can just go traditional or matched, open or closed, and like I say, why I don't know, but it's given me something to pursue. Yeah.
So you're quite regimented when you practice, or is it, do you sort of pick an exercise and stick with it for an hour, or?
No, not really. I think that approach to practicing, I let go a long time ago, because I think it was a couple of things, just life sort of catching up in terms of the amount of time I have to practice, you know, because, you know, working, family and stuff like that. And also, you know, I was ill about 10 years ago. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I had chemo and all that stuff. And that, I think, just made it difficult for me to sit in the practice room for hours on end, because I just sort of thought there was other stuff I could be doing and probably should be doing. So now I tend to it's, would the word be holistic? It's just a bit of everything. I'm just I put the click on and I'm practicing specific exercises, but it's not, I'm going to do this for half an hour, I'm going to do that for 150. You know, I put a click on to hold things together, and I have a specific range of things that are generally sort of bubbling around in my head that I'm working on, but I don't try and practice for a specific amount of time. and there might be, you know, a couple of days between practicing, and or you know, even longer at times. But yeah, back in the day, it was pretty regimented. Yeah, I say back in the day, from probably early 20, yeah, from probably late teens to 20, say 20, up to around 30. Yeah, those 10 years were pretty hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Felipe, is your sound on again, mate?
No, it's not. Oh, it is.
It
It
is.
is now. Yay! I'm back.
Woo-hoo!
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my microphone working now. Now I have to ask a question. So yeah, I got this a few years back.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
the guy that bought it.
Yeah, and already I love the first exercise. The first exercise, it's already amazing, where you replace the hand notes one at a time and the 16th notes
Yeah.
for one of the feet, and that is already gave me a lot of work. But my question is, both of you correct me if I'm wrong, but even though we had in the UK Ginger Baker and Simon Phillips and Bill Ward, it seems to me that the double pedal or the two bass drums is actually not very popular here. I don't see many people wanting to learn it. I don't see many people playing with double pedal when they're playing, especially the way the Americans use it, like, you know, Dave Wacko and Kolayut and stuff like that. So how come did you have the idea of writing the book?
Well, I guess that's, I never really thought about that in terms of players from the UK versus from the States. But because I guess I was just influenced by those other players, well, predominantly, obviously Simon Phillips, but players like Terry Bozzio and Dean Castronova was a big influence as well. And so in terms of the book, I guess that was just a time in my life when I was just being super nerdy about stuff like that. I'd actually written a series for Rhythm Magazine called Double Trouble, which was predominantly about the double pedals, some stuff about double hi-hats as well. And so that just sort of planted the seed. And so that was at a time when I would sort of write some of the book in the morning and then go and practice for the rest of the day. It was a time in my life when I could do that, and I think was that 2001, so 20 years ago. So I'd be roughly 30, and so yeah, I had the time to do it. So it seemed a good idea at the time, and then that was my only self-published book. I did a couple of other books, but they were sort of commissioned, so yeah, I guess it was just that thing of I'd got a lot of it done, and it just felt like a good use of my time, really. Yeah.
Well, I
Can
think
you tell us about your drumless tracks? Because I'm just looking at the time, because Zoom may well kick us off in 10-15 minutes, something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh, the drumless tracks again. That was something, because the Total Drum Tracks website was, I had all this material, because obviously I did and still do currently work for Rhythm Magazine. So we'd accumulated all these backing tracks, and they were just sitting on hard drives, and a bit like the Double Trouble stuff. I just thought I've got to make use of this. So I put the website together and put them in packages with transcriptions, and yeah, and it's all still there. But you know, I think in hindsight, I think if I was to do that again, I was just a little behind the curve, and it needs to be a streaming type thing, and it isn't, and it just doesn't make enough for me to justify putting more money in to do that. And so it's due for renewal tomorrow, and I'm questioning whether I'm going to renew, because it barely covers the cost. The costs are reasonably substantial of running a site like that with all the licenses and stuff. And so, yeah, it may have run its course. And so I'll just end up after 4 years at 0, unfortunately, but I tried. And so yeah, if you want any of that stuff, you've got about 24 hours before it shuts down.
All right, people.
So thank you. See you guys.
Okay, we've probably got like 10 minutes. So anyone got any other questions or anything?
I do, yeah.
Go ask.
So you mentioned about like learning sight reading quite early. And one of the things I liked about the Double Trouble book was that when you're using phrases and interpreting them. So you're using a lot of reading. Do you think that sort of learning your music theory early on influenced that way of approaching it? Because it seems that kind of crops up a lot in your playing, this use of sort of sight reading to build a phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say I could sight read early on. I could read, and that's obviously improved over time. But the idea of the phrasing thing, or incorporating the reading, whether it's like, as I say, the New Breed type approach, but phrasing in short, as I just got sick of seeing books that were just full of permutations. You know, I'm not going to name names, but you just got 150 exercises that are different combinations. And drumming can be broken down into sort of maths like that, but that's not very musical to my eyes. So I just like the idea of getting a concept and seeing if you can phrase with it, and then it becomes more musical, but it also becomes yours because you have that flexibility with it. But obviously that requires the ability to read, basically. And I think, just as an aside, I wouldn't be able to do a fraction of the work that I do without being able to read to the standard that I do, and without talking about specific things. And so I really value the reading. Yeah.
Cool. I've noticed, like, when you're soloing as well, seems very structured. Is that deliberate, or?
Not necessarily. It's certainly not structured beyond having a range of ideas, like say A, B, and C, that I'm just going to work between. Again, it probably comes back down to phrasing a specific rhythm on the kit using a specific concept, but it's not sort of. I'm really against that idea of sort of trying to regurgitate something note for note.
No, I guess I meant it's not that you were that you learned it note for note. It seems like you're quite good at sticking with an idea, and it makes it really easy to follow, which is unusual with soloists. You know, where sometimes they're just spouting out 5,000 ideas in under a minute, whereas you seem to sort of take an idea and repeat it quite a lot, and it makes it quite easy.
Right, okay. Yeah, I guess it's just that thing of trying to make it. It's a cliche, but sort of musical, because I guess a good example of it at its best would be if you watch that Buddy Rich drum solo with Vinny, Dave Weckl, and Steve Gadd. Everything that Steve Gadd plays, you can sing back immediately.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think, you know, you have to, when you're soloing, there's got to be a degree of there being hooks in it for the listener to hear, in terms of whether that's rhythmic things or melodic things or whatever. And so I guess those are the sort of key things I'm going for, really. And then I'm using whatever chops, or if you want, or concept to get between those ideas.
Cool.
Right. I'm curious to know if there's any, I guess, like new drummers or any drummers that inspire you now, and what do you? Maybe this is two questions. And what do you make of how drumming, I feel, is like represented on social media now? There seems to be lots of drummers, you know, who are just amazing, but they're not known particularly for playing for a person. They've just kind of built up this audience. So yeah, are there any drummers who inspire you now, who are perhaps new to the scene and second?
Yeah, in terms of new players, not so much. I tend to, I don't really like the chops thing or the gospel chops thing, so. But yeah, there are certain players. I still have my sort of older favourites in terms of guys like Simon Phillips or players like that. Obviously, you know, the influences I had 20 years ago, and perhaps that's what happens. I don't want to say I'm stuck in a rut, but those are they were the influences for me, and that's the sound I'm sort of still pursuing, and in terms of the question of the social media thing, it's a strange time in that respect. As you say, these people you have to have this, or you're almost sort of obliged to have this social media presence, and in some shape or form. And then you've got these drummers who have never, or not really known for playing with anyone, but they have this huge social media presence. I'm not necessarily saying that that's a bad thing. It's an outlet that because perhaps the more traditional route no longer exists in terms of playing, or exists less. It certainly doesn't exist at the moment in terms of gigging midway through lockdown. But yeah, as I say, it's a strange time because, you know, lots of people are putting this stuff out essentially for nothing. But you sort of feel obliged to do it because if it's, you know, I have students that I teach, and if it's not on Instagram, it doesn't exist.
Huh.
So.
Yeah.
Well, we've had talks about this quite a lot, about the fact that nobody knows who the drummers are anymore because everything's put on MP3, so there's no credit lists. So you don't, you know, you can't read I used to, you know, take the vinyl out and read the lyrics and see who the drummer was and everything, and that's how I got to know these people, and it just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, again, at the risk of sounding like a cynical old dinosaur, I do think there's just been a general devaluing of things, you know, whether it's, you know, and I'm guilty of it. I have Spotify, and there's some music on. My wife says, "Oh, this is great. Who's this?" I said, "I don't know. It's just a great track that I just liked," and I don't know who's in the band. I don't know who the drummer is, and I think, you know, just that as an example, I think, like you say, that the experience of because I'm of that generation where you'd buy an album, you listen to it over and over, you'd read all the liner notes, has gone. But is that a bad thing? I don't know. The students some of the students I teach, they've never experienced that, so they'll never know any different. And but I certainly think it's a challenging environment to be entering as a young aspiring drummer, you know, in terms of the bigger picture, in terms of work and playing experience, for example.
Okay, so if we have time, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I have a question from a dinosaur to another one. I have the feeling that because of social media, drumming is having an approach of an Olympic sport where I'm trying to be louder, faster, and more complicated. And does any of you guys actually have that feeling that, for example, I saw the other day somebody saying like 20 Beatles tracks in 3 minutes, and the guy, whoever was playing, didn't play anything like Ringo. He played actually like Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters. Like, so what's the point? I don't know. Didn't sound good to me. So I don't know if you have the same impression I have, that nowadays it's like faster, louder, and more complicated, regardless of it's musical or not.
I would say that there's a degree of that, because it's almost the sort of clickbait thing, isn't it, or the thing that keeps you watching for a minute. But then I would also say that you've got drummers like Ash Sohn, who are predominantly sort of playing grooves, and people love it. I would say it's more the medium that that bothers me, you know, in terms of, and perhaps that doesn't encourage musicality when you're looking at Instagram and flicking through drummers playing through this tiny speakers. I think it's perhaps hard to convey musicality with a sound and a tiny little screen like that. And so perhaps, but whereas perhaps if you've got someone flying around the kit with, you know, incredible chops for a minute, it's easier to engage with that because you're going to hear what they're doing, as opposed to the subtleties and nuances of touch and things like that. They're probably lost via that medium, I would say. I'm certainly not helped by it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think certainly in metal, I mean, it's an arms race these days. It's just, I don't know where it's going to go though, because there are guys playing at insane speeds. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, so it's kind of brick wall, but it's, as Pete says, it's because you're looking at it rather than listening to it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of made for the visual medium, and it kind of almost changes the parameters of everything. It's yeah, I don't know.
And it does, definitely, because the processing that has gone on with so many of those videos in terms of the adjustments you can make to the triggering, the compression, and you know, and you've got those people that probably spent an entire day editing the audio to create that 1 minute clip.
Yep.
So that's what that probably sounded like with the raw kit in the room on the actual tape that they did. And yeah, I'm not sure how healthy that is, you know, in terms of disappearing down the rabbit hole. But I think, you know, as for me, I just try and look for something more musical to do with that, either that medium or just in general playing, and try and not get caught up with that. Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about your recording setup?
Yeah.
Microphones and things like that.
Yeah. So is this going out as video, or is this just audio?
Video.
That's going to be video.
Okay. Let me.
Look, we're getting a moving tour.
Yeah, I'll do it. Let's see if I can. Here we go. Okay, so this is the. Sorry, my nuances. That's my control room.
Okay.
So I basically got the mic preamps down on the left and the converters on the right. One of the Macs does audio and the other Mac does the video. And then we go through into this room, which, so that's my recording kit. And on the kit, in terms of mics and things, let's go down a touch. So what's in the bass drum? I can't remember. I've just got a D12 inside that. That's a 24. That's another 24 behind it. And the sub kick. Shure SM98s on all the toms. There'd normally be a couple of AKG 4-on-4s up there, but they're the only mics I pack away. The mic clipped onto that stand is for when I'm doing an online lesson. And on the last floor tom, there's a Beta 52 and a couple of 57s on the top and bottom of the snare. So, and then also when I'm recording on that kit, I've got, oh, you can see it actually. Yeah, I've got another screen in the corner of the room, which I use wirelessly. That's hooked up to the Mac in the other room. Then in that kit is in that corner is my teacher. I've just switched it round to left-handed because it's because no one's coming in for lessons at the moment, so I get to play on it quite a bit. And that's yeah, a stack of cymbals and that's the other spare 22 and various other drums. So yeah, that's the setup. A very brief tour. Let's put that back on there.
Very cool.
Lovely.
Oh, yeah.
And it's basically the studio is a single garage for the control room, and the live room was a double garage, and it was all here. I just had to soundproof and fill in all the doors, and I say just, it was quite a job. But, yeah. yeah, it's I don't take it for granted. You know, it was one of the most challenging things for drummers, I think, having somewhere to play and yeah, so being able to walk out the back door into the studio it's great. Yeah, I don't take it for granted. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for that.
Right. We've got like 3 minutes, so I wondered if anyone had any more questions. And also, with lockdown, I guess you don't know when you're gigging next, or if people want to find out more about you or see you play.
Yeah, no, I mean, looks like everyone, I've got the summer off basically. I had, I mean, I gig regularly with a rock covers thing, and so that's obviously done for probably the rest of the year. And I had a load of, I do Deptford, Tony Hadley and ABC, and I had quite a few of those running through the summer, so that's all done. So who knows really? It's you know, hopefully Rhythm Magazine is spacing things out, so hopefully there's another issue that's ready to go but it is on hold while because obviously people can't really get to the news agents to buy it, so there'll be more of that to do. And yeah, I guess I'll just be practicing and there'll be a few other bits of work, recording bits of work that will come in. So but yeah, like everyone else, the gigging is on hold for the foreseeable, unfortunately. Yeah.
Are you taking online students at the moment?
Yeah, it's not something I pursued because I started doing those daily lockdown videos. I did 2, and then I just thought, you know, I actually just fancy a break. This is what I do for a job, and I'm now going to do more of it for nothing. And I just thought, no, I'm going to just have a break and tidy my studio, which took me about 3 days, and things like that, and just working through a to-do list of things that need doing. And so yeah, so hopefully there'll be a few more creative things that I'll get my teeth into, and at least this sort of time affords you that opportunity to stand back and regroup a little bit in terms of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, it's going to cut out in a minute, I think. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Pete.
you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good chatting to everyone. Yeah, and yeah, hope everyone stays safe during these strange times.
Yeah. And don't forget about the paint cans. We want to know.
Yes.
I will give it a go. I have the facilities. I have paint cans, so yeah, I'll let you know. Yeah.
Stopwatch. Awesome. Thanks very much, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. All right.
See ya.